Yeah, definitely get those donations in. I'm really excited to answer some questions, but I'm also super excited to see Fizzi on the show. Great to have you, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What's up, guys? I heard we were going to talk about PM. I think if that's the case, I'm a little out of my breath.
We're gonna do a bunch of stuff. We're gonna do
No, I was joking. I think Charlie might have read the wrong next up thing.
yeah, no, yeah, I also
I'm
saw
just
that.
I'm just teasing, obviously. Like this is
Yeah,
not going to work out very well if that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, well,
totally.
PM is coming after this segment, I believe.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
meta and tier list discussion for the game. Also,
Right.
really excited about that, but yeah, definitely a bit out
Yeah,
of all of our elements there.
yeah. Yeah, that would have been a
And
tough one.
and of course, if you're just tuning in and didn't see kind of the precursor to this, we're a new Melee podcast. We're going to cover things inside and outside the scene. You know, it's going to be a bi-weekly thing, and this is our second episode. So we're super happy to have the opportunity to be on the 5 Days of Melee series. It's been super great so far. Do we want to kick off in our first topic, which is kind of recapping the week that we are currently participating in now?
Sure thing. Yeah, Fizzy, I don't know how much you've been tuned in to the week. I actually saw that you were in an interview with Carol the other day,
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
the famous 99 stock interviews. It seemed like that went really well. But have you been watching any of this? Any cool things that you saw throughout the week?
Well, first of all, yeah, the interview with Carol, it was pre-recorded, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk to him and play. I have been watching, maybe not as much as I would have liked to be watching, but I personally, I think I really enjoyed the Millionaire. I missed some of the other game show stuff, but it was so. I think just like the idea of like melee trivia and the whole sort of game show thing, and I thought Scar did a great job. So that was really fun for me, and also, I tuned in super late at night once, and I watched some really, really old sets with some people, and was just participating in the chat, and that was pretty fun
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, the grand
Yeah,
finals through time has been really cool segment to be able to add in. Got
yeah.
to give a really big shout out to Radar. I don't think a lot of people know this, but he's actually been the lead and point person for basically every game show that has been going off this week. So kudos to you, man, for getting
Let's
getting all
go.
that stuff going, because I think it's great content too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been incredibly stressful and a lot of work, but it has been a lot of fun. I'm sure people who have been kind of watching the week have seen me in the chat talking about it. Um, I am am insanely excited for Zoo's episode today. I saw Toph in particular. Shout out to Toph again. Was hyping it up because I was DMing Toph on Twitter, being like, for those who don't know, we asked a couple people to come on, and there was a bit of a talent issue, so we ended up getting kind of Zoo last minute. And I actually had asked and said, hey, you know, are you available for this? And he just didn't see the message, but he's like, oh damn, like I would have been available. I'm like, don't worry, dude, you missed the legendary event. Like I just
Yeah.
kind of went off because I was so hyped about it. And I guess he must have been talking on stream or something, because I looked at the Reddit the next day and people were like, I heard that Zoo's episode is the single most legendary piece of Melee content ever. And I was like,
Yep.
all right, well, the stakes are pretty high, but you know, hopefully
I guess
people like it.
We'll have to
Yeah.
see how, because it's going to be the Ludwig family versus the Alston Melee family tomorrow, which is going to be really exciting also. But I agree that the Zoo episode, I think, is far and away my favorite of the entire week.
I think Feud could also top it
Yeah.
too. Like I'm really excited for that, but that's of course going to be live, so we haven't seen
Yeah.
it yet. It could be even more legendary.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, but again, I mean, great job to you getting all that going. Like, super great concept, and that's something that, I mean, we've all talked in private on the 5 Days of Melee kind of staff Discord. Like, hey, this is something that we should do again sometime, because it's like, let's not limit it to just this week. This is an amazing concept that we should keep going with.
I think the thing I've heard probably the most is a lot of community members, kind of top players, figures within the scene have been like, get me on there and I will kill it. Like it's a community that is very, very competitive naturally, and they are in there in the chat going, bro, Hugs is washed. I would kill it. I get straight to the 15th question, and I'm sitting there being like, all right, well, I'd like to see it. You know, I gotta. It is for those who are asking in the chat, it is going to be a millionaire episode for Zoo, so that'll be at 3 p.m. But yeah, I would love to see it. People were saying to get M2K on for some of the stuff, and I'm
There's
sure
so many opportunities, man.
oh yeah,
Like, Oh my god!
So,
And there's so much like history and knowledge that has gone, like, it's not a 19-year-old game that has been competitive for most of that time too. So it's like there's so much that you can dig deep into to find talent, to find questions for everything. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I think I'd be the opposite. I think I would do awful.
yeah,
So,
no, that it really is dependent on like where your pockets of knowledge are. Even I, because it's not just me writing questions, it's been, a bunch of people, and there certainly have been questions where I'm thinking like, yeah, I would have no idea, not even
yeah.
close to knowing. So
Yeah, I know there were a few questions that
sure.
we kind of like vetted out through the process. Like
Oh,
early
yeah.
on, this was probably like a week or two ago. I was like, "Hey, let's do a question where it's like, how much percent does this character have if a fox like nair grab up throw up airs?"
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "No, we're
No,
not
no,
doing
no.
that."
You're
I
like,
was like, "Yeah, okay, that's a hard
Yeah.
question. We
There's
can't
like
do
three
that."
people in the world that can answer that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So that's been really fun. I think the event in general has been cool. And one of the things that I've been noticing even now live is we've had a really nice chat. Like chat has been really, really chill. They've been really funny. They've been pogging out at the right times. They've been laughing at the right times. They're just a fun group of people. So shout outs to them for sure.
For sure.
Shout out to
Um,
chat.
yeah, a couple other things I want to point out just as a part of the recap. EU series, so entertaining. Pipsqueak is a monster. Let's just get that out of the way. And there were some really cool sets from the North American East Coast series last night that I was able to catch in my periods of complete non-exhaustion. Bab activated versus Swooper. Just Swooper's run in general was insane. Um, I don't think he ended up going the distance against Hacks, but still really, really solid run. I think multiple, probably 4 or 5 sets in losers or something like that.
Yeah, he was doing very, very, very well. Kind of showcasing what I guess Samus has to offer in terms of playstyle variations and stylish combos. I did commentate a decent chunk of it, and was just very, very, very impressed with the Swoopers' approach to the game and the matchup. And again, people in chat were pogging out. They were super excited. And then the Pipsqueak stuff. I don't know how much you were able to catch, Fizzi. I've kind of same thing. Been popping in and out. Been very busy with this project, but I think he was one of the few people who's ever 3-stocked Professor Pro, and made it look
Dude,
effortless in a way.
he destroyed everyone. I think every set that he played was a 3-0.
Yeah,
Or close. Even the ones that he lost. Like, I think every single one was a 3-0. He just went off. And it
That's
was well
great.
deserved because what was the event before that where he just barely lost out to Prof, I think a week before this or something like that. Definitely,
Yeah.
like, it was his time to win.
Yeah, I actually think just sort of in general, and it's funny because we're speaking with the person who is essentially responsible for a lot of this. Slippi Online, as it would be called, has made Europe seem a lot more powerful. And I don't want to discredit Europe and say that, pre-June, where this was released, they weren't still really, really strong region. But it does seem like they are becoming more and more of a threat. There's something, you look at them and think, okay, some of these guys are looking a bit scary. They are poised to take some tournaments. It is getting kind of nutty, to say the least.
I feel like every time I hear Leffen talk, though, I feel differently because
You feel
he
bad?
always
Yeah.
talks so much shit, and he's like, "I want a challenge" or whatever. But
Sure.
hopefully it's getting there. I mean, I really think that hopefully with Slippi, people are just going to get way better, and I hope that means that the top do get challenged, right? Like, I think it's easier for more people to get in a lot of games than ever before. And like, even if you're maybe busy with other stuff, you can still find time, I think, to get in games where you probably couldn't before.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that Radar, you and I actually discussed this with Toph a couple weeks ago on our first episode, but it was kind of like the looming threat of EU just looking insane. You look at Pipsqueak this the other day, and then everyone else in the talent, Prof, Frenzy, Kinzo. I'm not sure who else was a part of that top 8, but it really gets me excited personally to see eventually when IRL tournaments come back, what is that going to look like with the North American European collision course that's about to happen once we can kind of have these in-person tournaments where everyone is in attendance?
I think to me, it really shows off how important things like kind of infrastructure are. Like people sometimes think that, oh yeah, if you want to get good, it's all about kind of being this independent person who's independently driven. But the reality is if you have very few ways to play, if you have very little competition, if you don't really have any prize money or tournaments and stuff to enter, your scene suffers. And so then when you flip that on its head and suddenly you're able to play with people all around the continent, maybe even East Coast people, you're suddenly having people have rivals and people that are pushing each other in tandem to grow and grow and grow. You get a scene where I see why Leffen kind of goes, I don't have challenges, because he's kind of in another tier. But it's the tier below that I think they're kind of slowly getting there, to kind of chasing his literal tail. So
yeah, and I hope they get there. I mean, and for him too, because I think he does want a challenge, and I think that'll push him to try harder too. So
no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, in the interest of time, it would be good to segue into, we've already been touching a bit on Slippi, but really kind of highlighting our guest, Fizzi, kind of the man, the myth, the legend. I think one of the things that would be good to sort of start off is just, how did you get into Melee? Tell us a little bit about kind of your story for people who might not be as familiar.
Yeah, I talked about this with Carol too, but I started with Brawl competitively. Although, like, I played 64 when I was a kid, and I played Melee. But with competitive Smash, I started with Brawl. One of my friends got me into it, got me into the more competitive side, right? And then at the time, I was going to university in Montreal. They had a weekly, and I started going to the weekly there and made some friends and started doing pretty well in the weekly and stuff. And basically, got into competitive Brawl. Eventually, though, well, first of all, I think the transition happened around Genesis 1. When I saw the Genesis finals for Melee, and I think I was already like slightly getting into competitive Melee because people in the scene were like having me try it, but I hadn't committed yet. And then with Genesis, I was like, holy crap, like that set is insane. That set is just crazy. And then like after that, I kind of started to get more into Melee. I had one particular tournament I remember where I did really poorly in Brawl, and I was really disappointed in myself. And it was a Brawl/Melee tournament, so there was like Melee downstairs, Brawl upstairs. And I did my tournament run in Brawl, and I was really unhappy. And like I was playing DDD, and I was getting cammed, and it was miserable. And then I went downstairs, and I just started playing Melee for the rest of the time. And I think I think I saw like Raynex there and like some other top players. Obviously, there's the top Montreal players, but like Toronto was there too. So it was pretty cool. I played with some people, and it was just a lot of fun. And I think that was probably the major turning point where I just had like a really bad experience with Brawl, and then at the same time I had a really good experience with Melee, and I was like, this game is too sick. I want to get better.
Way, just shout outs to Canada. I'm originally from Ontario. Raynex, super cute, huge homie. I'm not surprised that he would be a welcoming force in the Melee. Really, really accomplished Fox player and just a really nice guy. So shout outs to him.
Yeah, I was about to say, this morning I've just been surrounded by Canadians.
Yeah, Canada stuff going, baby. Let's go.
It's not a bad thing though at all by any means. But yeah, I mean, Fizzi. So I guess you started with Brawl, yuck, but good for you that you went to the right side of everything. How did like the origin of Project Slippi and like taking on this monumental task of rollback netcode in a game like Melee? I recall actually an interview with you. I can't recall who it was with, but you talked about utilizing Lightning Melee, I believe, to be able to kind of like develop it. But how did all of that start? Like, when did you start this project? What inspired you? What was a roadblock, obstacles, breakthroughs? Like,
oh my god, this is such a huge question. I'll try to touch on some stuff. Lightning mode, I was actually wrong about that to some extent. Okay. It's like the developer mode speed up mode is like 5x speed, I think. So when you have develop mode, you can fast track stuff, or you can make stuff go 5x. Also, I just want to say to the Brawl lovers out there, Brawl is fine. I think it's a fine game. So I don't want to shit on Brawl too much. I had a lot of fun with it.
Just kidding. I had to clarify in chat just to make sure. Come on.
But yeah, I mean, I think with rollback, obviously I was already working on Slippi. I knew how it might be possible. I started thinking about it more in like December 2019 or so, and I was like, man, I'm starting to see how this can be done, right? I kind of like have some of the pieces or whatever, and then it's just a matter of like deciding to do it, which was a really, really hard choice. Because I didn't know if I would succeed, and also I had gone full-time, so I kind of needed some money.
Yep.
This is a very relatable story in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Make content where it's like, this is going to be a lot of work, and it might lead to nothing. Like it might just lead to nothing. So yeah.
So I mean, I kind of went with it. I was just like, this would be so sick. It'd be sicker than anything else I think I could do. I could do something else and probably have a more guaranteed way to make money, but I just love the challenge, and I love just going for it. Like going for something that's really hard, I think, and like really would be like super impressive if it worked out, and huge for the scene because I knew like there was a chance it would really make netplay huge. At the time, COVID wasn't really a thing, so I wasn't really thinking about that.
Yeah, we were just saying like how fortuitous it's kind of like, not fortuitous that a pandemic happened, but it's kind of like that we have this option in a time of absolute need for it, where it's like this is our only option, and it's like we have this almost perfect solution to it head on.
Yeah. And to touch on the roadblocks, I mean, there's always roadblocks. I think like trying to do stuff like even just getting like the menu stuff working, right? Like, because I knew I wanted a menu. Uncle Punch was super helpful with that. Uncle Punch is almost always my roadblock bulldozer. So yeah, there's that. Another really big one was sound. And if you listen to, I think this might have just played before this, earlier this morning. It was an interview I did with Esteban, Hold Back the Block. And I talk a little bit about sound there and music and stuff. And he plays a clip from like how it sounded at first, and it's just really, really awful. And that was really hard. I out of anything else, the thing I spent the most time on, I think, is sound. And obviously I couldn't even get music working, so I just nixed music.
That's fine. Wasn't there I think there was a clip that you posted, wasn't it like, this is what the game could look like if I fix Fox's down tilt or something like that, and it was just this like mess.
Yeah, so a lot of people think it's the down tilt, and it's actually not the down tilt. Because I mentioned it was Fox's tail, and he uses his tail for down tilt, but it's actually on a dash back. When Fox dashes back, for some reason his tail position can be different based on reasons. I don't really know why, but when we were fast forwarding, aka when we were doing rollbacks, for some reason the position of the tail could end up being different, and depending on which frames were rollbacked on which client, one person might hit the tail, and then on the other person's client the tail might not get hit. It's like Uncle Punch calls them dynamics, so it's things like Marth's cape, Fox's tail, they move kind of like dynamically. And the weird thing about Fox is he has a hurt box on his tail. So it's a dynamic with a hurt box, which was what was causing the issue. And we think we fixed it, by the way, without all the crazy... That was mostly a joke. I did manage to fix it, but when I fixed it, I created these crazy visual artifacts, which is what you saw. But then Uncle Punch spent like, I don't know, 3 hours at night trying to find a better solution, and he found a better solution. So... But that was kind of a team effort. It was like trying to figure out what was wrong, and it's hard. It's really hard figuring out what's going on with desyncs, and you have to find like where in the code it's happening and everything, and it's kind of nuts.
That actually makes me kind of lead into a different question a bit about, you're mentioning Uncle Punch, you're kind of speaking to the team. Obviously, people more and more in our community are knowing kind of Fizzi, this person who did so much. But my understanding is that the team is almost expanding. There's more people contributing. Can you speak a bit about kind of the evolution of how you sort of started with Slippi, and then what the team is like now, and kind of how it's been growing?
I mean, when you say with Slippi, it's like, how early do we want to go, right? Because Slippi has its origins in 2015. Me working on like hardware for stats, right? Eventually, I want to do the replay stuff in Dolphin. Dunkle Punch, yes. Uncle Punch had a huge impact on that, right? Helping with the replay stuff. Especially back then, I probably wasn't as comfortable with melee modding myself. Although going through that exercise really helped set me up for being able to do rollback a little bit more by myself. As you guys have seen, Uncle Punch released some stuff recently. He's been really busy, so he wasn't as available when I was working on the rollback stuff, so I was a little more alone. He did still help with a few things, but for the most part, a lot of the original rollback software I did almost on my own, with some help from Uncle Punch. There's always Nikki helping in the background, like helping with the Discord and everything, and Metaconstruct hasn't done as much stuff directly recently, but he was really big in helping with some of the Nintendo stuff early on. Anyway, after release, so after release, obviously a bunch of people are excited about it. And people just come into the Discord and they're like, hey, I want to work on this thing. I'm like, I mean, it depends. Sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want to merge that because it's something I don't want. And that's always an awkward discussion to have. But for other people, they want to work on stuff and it's stuff that's really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go for it. And then they submit a PR. We look at it, we try to merge it, and so on. So now, I mean, there's a ton of people doing stuff for sure. We have, Binsu, Alt F4 have been awesome. I'm probably going to miss so many people, but Enzyme with doubles, which I tweeted about a bunch yesterday. Yep. And Rapito has done a ton of stuff that you guys are going to be excited about soon, like some CSS chat stuff, Rocket League style chat stuff, which is really cool. And hopefully a lot of this stuff you guys can start seeing soon. I think, we've had some community contributions, but it's about to be, I think, a release where I think more stuff is done by the community than by me for probably the first time. So,
yeah, that's kind of what I've been wondering. Sorry, go ahead, Walt.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, that's really great, honestly. Like, it's so cool that you can develop something and then get it to a point where it's like crowdsourced at that point, and you can kind of just like roll with the punches as people give you more and more to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you speak a bit to doubles? Because I know early on, or not that early on, but we had spoken a bit about kind of the possibility of doubles, and obviously I know you're not that was a separate person working on it, and now you're kind of integrating it in, trying to get it to work. But at one point, it seemed like you almost said it may never be possible. Is there a way to kind of explain to us sort of what changed?
I don't think it was ever not possible.
Okay.
So I don't know if I said that. If I did, I might have misspoke or I was confused. I don't know. I don't believe it was ever not possible. It was more, I mean, with everything in this project, it's about prioritization. And I sort of alluded to this in my tweets yesterday too, right? Where it's like, okay, what do you guys want? Do you want ranked singles or do you want direct doubles, right? And it's like, that's the questions we have to ask ourselves, right? It's like, okay, we can only work on one of these at a time. Obviously, people would like both, but like we can't do that unless somebody else does it, like Enzyme or whatever. But even then, the work I have to do now on integrating doubles, which was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't really expect it because I didn't really know Enzyme was working on it. It kind of derails the roadmap a little bit, where it's like now, okay, I feel like, because I don't really want two builds going around that much. I think it's kind of annoying for people.
I agree.
So it's like, okay, I need to probably, switch to trying to merge this faster rather than later, right? Because I personally, I still think the most important thing for the scene is ranked. But since so much work has been done on doubles already, it probably makes sense to try and integrate it. It's still not no work to integrate it, but I have some people helping me, so that's great.
Yeah, so I saw that you tweeted the other day, actually, basically exactly what you said. It was kind of like, this is why I think ranked is one of the most important features to work on for new players. And it's kind of like tapping into that collective market of people who maybe know nothing about the game or are being newly introduced into Melee.
Hmm.
Where do you stand on that? Obviously, I mean, your tweet is firmly, ranked should be very prioritized in this situation, and I agree with
Yeah.
you. But what's your rationale behind all that?
I mean, I think people argue about this, right? Because it's like the people that try the game and get destroyed and don't keep playing, would they keep playing if they played the game and didn't get destroyed?
Sure.
And I think that's a difficult question to answer. I don't really have any analytics or whatever, but regardless, I think it's great to try to make the game more accessible, try to make it so that, new players can maybe have a good experience trying it for the first time. Or, it's still hard because even if there is a ranking system, it's like our new player is going to want to play ranked, and even if they
Right.
do play ranked, they probably start off playing maybe more like the average skill player until they lose a bit, and then they play people their level. But how long does that process take?
Yeah,
And so on.
this reminds me, I have, for an unfortunately very extended amount of time, been working on a video outlining some of my own thoughts about kind of what rank should look like. And had this event obviously not been created, I probably would be done that video. One of the things that it's coming, all right, it's coming, hopefully before the new year, because it literally has. I've probably spent like 100+ hours on it. One of the things I was thinking about is how your role is almost moving away from just someone who's focused on a purely how can we design a melee system where we can play each other, the kind of the coding, the functionality, and also expanding to how can we keep people playing the game, how can we get people interested in the different modes, what you're saying about how can we attract new players, things that almost a AAA developer would go, okay, we want people to play, what can we kind of do? And I guess I'm curious about how kind of far along or what kind of discussions maybe go on behind the scenes. Examples might include like achievement systems or level progression or anything like that. Obviously, you said it's about priorities and kind of roadmaps, but are those things that you're thinking about or that kind of thing?
Yes and no. I think specifically, like, first of all, doing anything with this game is extremely, extremely hard. And also, like, personally, I think I'm increasingly thinking that, like, at least I do not want to go too ham with what I end up doing. I want to try to keep the game a little more simple, and a little closer to as close as I can to kind of what it is on the vanilla side. Obviously, I do still want ranked, and I want sort of like these online systems or whatever. But you asked about achievements. Maybe that's something I could do on, like, I actually did consider stuff like this. Maybe doing it like kind of on the website side, like not in game. I think doing it in game would be too hard. But maybe on the website you have you have achievements for doing certain things. I don't know, playing a certain amount of game with a certain character or whatever, right? Achieving some stat like 800 IPM or something stupid. Whatever. So I think there's definitely room for that. I think it just I don't think it would be in game.
Is
What
that
about on the unranked side? Like, I saw that you actually posted a poll, I think this morning, that was like, what if there was a background, almost like skill-based unranked system, so that we
Yeah.
can kind of pair against closer in skill level opponents, so there's not this like huge disparity where you're just destroying people left and right
Yeah.
or getting destroyed. What
Rocket
about
League
something
does
like
this.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Rocket League does this, and it works pretty well in Rocket League. I was actually surprised at the poll results. The poll results seem to indicate that more people like the random one, and I think somebody posted in the comments where it's probably sampling reasons, because it's like probably the people that follow me are fairly competitive. Most people that do. So I thought about this a little bit more after the poll, and I'm kind of thinking right now that I might have a good idea for how to solve this for most groups that care. And I think, like, I was basically thinking that it's the biggest problem is at the lowest level, right? I think at the lowest level you don't want to get destroyed. But I
Sure.
think once you're an average player or even maybe slightly below average, right? But like getting there, I think you're more happy playing really good players. You might be anyway. You'll be like, okay, yeah, I get destroyed, but like, oh, I'm learning something. Or even more so like, oh boy, I get to play against Axe or whatever, right? I think people like that a lot. So it's really cool that you can kind of get matched up with whoever. So because of this, I was thinking that maybe it's possible that there is a hidden MMR, but it's really only used at the very low level.
That makes a lot of
yeah.
sense.
Would it
Because
be
And I-
people do
possible to
pay
do
money
a
matches
split?
to. Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that people pay to, like, if you go to a tournament, there is a line to play a top player for money.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so you're absolutely right that when they're like, oh shit, I just got matched up against Axe or
Yep.
Bond or whatever. Like those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
things
yeah.
that people get hype about. So for sure.
Yeah. My exact
Yeah.
reaction when I queued and then I saw "Don't Test Me" on the screen, and I was like, "This can't actually be Zane, right? Because it's a Jigglypuff that I'm playing." And then I realized he was practicing Jigglypuff for, I guess, a online tournament or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm curious about, because you touched on this a bit about keeping the game as close to vanilla as possible, is part of that motivation. We all got to talk about this at some point. A Nintendo motivation? Is there this feeling of like the less we change it, the better? I'm just curious.
I think it's a few things. I will not say that's not part of it. But I mean, I talked about this with Carol as well. But also, you know, it's tricky. Melee is this magical game, right? It's existed for like 19 years without any changes, and I think there's something to be said with trying to maintain some of that experience. And I could see arguments for both sides, obviously. I can see wanting to add stuff and wanting to change things and keeping things fresh or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, we are not Nintendo. Like, we are a community, right? And, I think we need to do the best we can with the game we have. But, yeah, I don't want to elaborate too much, but it's part of it.
Okay. Yeah. And when you say we are a community, do you mean from a resources perspective? Like, we can only do so much, we only have so many people? Or is it more about kind of preserving our identity?
I don't know if I fully wanna answer. It's not.
No worries. Yeah.
I think it's not exactly those two things.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at time because we want to be mindful of stuff.
Yeah, I think we got about maybe 10-ish minutes. Guys, again, reminder for donation questions, the last like 10, 15 minutes or so, we'll take a few. We have a handful so far, so anyone who donates $10 or more, type in !donate for more information on how to do that. I think just kind of like changing gears a little bit. You mentioned kind of like the roadmap for Slippi being not like kind of derailed in a sense with this development for the doubles and whatnot, and that might be your focus. Is map something that you can openly talk about right now? Like, do you have ideas of what is going to come next after this ranked implementation, doubles implementation,
Yeah.
what have you?
I'm usually happy to talk about sort of what I'm thinking of. I'm usually not happy talking about timelines. I
Sure.
try to not give any timelines. Yeah, I mean, if you're wondering what's coming after, the idea is community contributions, and that includes doubles, and that's my current focus. After that, my focus switches to ranked. Maybe in between that, I'll try the unranked MMR for low-level players thing, because I think that's kind of a faster way to do it, and also maybe it can instruct ranked. It can be like kind of a precursor to ranked anyway.
Sure.
After that, I don't know. I think we'll see. We'll see. I obviously, like, there's so much that could be done with Slippi. I think there's especially a ton that could be done on the website side, collecting more player information, being able to populate, like, for example, player graphics for tournaments, like, hey, this is what this player is good at, etc. Having more info about, basically player stats from online play would be pretty interesting, I think, for set analysis at tournaments and stuff. Even just having people be able to like have their replays and look at their stats on their website, on their profile page. Maybe you can see other people's on their profile pages and stuff, like just putting stuff on the website instead of just having it local to your computer, I think would be really cool. But the truth is, I don't know. I haven't, when I released this, I promised spectator mode, which I did as broadcasting instead. But I promised that, and I promised ranked. And I wanted to do more with broadcasting, and people have asked if I intend on still doing that before doing ranked. And I think right now the answer is no. I think I will not pursue the other stuff I intended for now, and I'll focus on ranked instead. But yeah, obviously that's kind of forced me to have to, I got to release that stuff, right? I already promised it. After that, we'll see, because I think, maybe there's other things I could work on too that would be really helpful for the scene. So
yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, there's just so many opportunities. I'm sure you of all people know this better than anyone. But I know for people like Radar and myself, even it's kind of like the things we can do with Slippi on the production side and on the content side of things is like very, very exciting. Like I had a recent video where I had an analysis of Lod's win over HBox. And it's like Lod was able to send me the SLP file so that I could play back in real time, look at hitboxes, like observe frame data on different things. It's just massive, at least for the things that he and I get to do on that side of things. So it's like we're really appreciative of that, and the opportunities of what else can be kind of like developed as a result of this is really exciting, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also really cool, I think, when people do sort of videos and stuff, and they use the files, and then they record it at different camera angles and stuff too, and like play around with that. It usually looks really cool. So,
one question I'm a little curious about for people who maybe care about some of the math side of things is you've spoken a bit about kind of MMR and ranking systems. Do you have kind of an idea of what kind of behind the scenes system you'd want to be using? People talk a lot about Elo, Glico, these what's the Microsoft one? I'm forgetting off the top of my head. TrueScale, like there's a bunch of different options. Do you have anything in that way?
I don't know if I haven't decided on anything yet to answer the question. I think I will maybe research them a bit more. I loosely know them. I actually did do some work on crap, I forget the name, but it was some open source software that people used to do like Glico ratings for their local scenes or whatever. Skill Keeper, I think maybe it was called.
I think
yeah, and I did a little bit of work on that program actually. I forget what I did. I think I made it so you could import challenge or something. Regardless, I have some experience with that kind of thing. I also, I think I've mentioned this as well, but I also built much of the early backend for the Smash GG ladder system, which is a bit different. The way the ranks work more like Hearthstone there, which probably wouldn't be what I would go with for this, but I have some experience with this stuff. I think I need to do some more research, and when I'm ready to work on it, I'll probably pull some people in to get people's opinions and thoughts and so on. Which is something I try to do if I think it's helpful, right? I'll just like ask for opinions from people.
We probably should have asked this earlier, and I think that we have a couple questions that we'll probably pivot over to in the next couple minutes. But your background is in software, right? I'm assuming, or can you tell us like what you did before you went to this project?
Yeah. I actually found it amusing earlier that you said you work for medical devices, because I went to school. I went to McGill. I graduated in computer engineering, and I started working, or I interned first, and then I worked at Johnson & Johnson Vision Care. So we're making contact lenses, which is like a low-level medical device, right? Considered to be. And so after that, I started. Well, while I was working there, I did some like Melee side projects and stuff. And then as part of that is probably part of the reason why I got a job offer at Smash GG. And then I traveled to San Francisco to work at Smash GG. I worked at Smash GG for like 3 years, over 3 years. And then obviously I quit for Slippi. So that's my background. So yeah, so I did software stuff at Johnson & Johnson, and I also did some hardware stuff there too. And then I did a lot of work at Smash GG as well.
Super cool. Yeah, J&J's a really great place. Obviously, we like having you in the role that you're in right now. But yeah, kudos to you, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder if you can carry any of that experience into figuring out how to fix Walt's camera right now.
Yeah, I've been messaging
having some issues,
but for a while, and they're just like, it is what it is. But you know,
Yeah.
we keep trucking along, I guess. Real quick, because I don't think we have a ton of questions, so we can probably push that back a couple minutes. Radar, I know there was a question you and I discussed personally that I don't think we fully touched on for Fizzi yet. Kind of about the business side of things. I don't know if you want to give him that question and kind of then we move on to questions with chat.
I think like I kind of touched on it a bit about sort of how you're approaching just like achievements and ranked and how to kind of player retention. I guess, you know, what I'm hearing from you a lot is sort of this experience that, again, I think people who create stuff online and content online experience a lot, which is sort of the requirement to wear a lot of hats, so to speak. You know, that you kind of have to be this programmer who's very knowledgeable about kind of the back end of the game, but you're also, you know, having to understand the community's needs, and you're kind of having to do some marketing, you're having to do some kind of business stuff in terms of right now, you know, you have your Patreon supporters, but eventually, would, you know, if they got big enough, maybe you try to expand the team. I guess we're just sort of wondering, how has that experience been for you, kind of to go maybe from this is entirely a project where I'm just doing it on my own to this is a project where I'm trying to support myself and you know, grow it and become personally invested in a way, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard. And it's not it's not a part that I necessarily like, because obviously like I also have an LLC. I have to like deal with like tax stuff. I have to deal with like, you know, having the business and stuff. And my mom would always call it so I speak French as well. She would call it paperasse, which effectively means like busy work or like annoying stuff that you have to do or whatever. And I always hated that stuff. So like organizational stuff is pretty you know, troublesome. And I think that's also why you know, you talked about expanding the team, and maybe that's something that could be cool for the future. Obviously, Slippi doesn't really make enough money to support that. But even that aside, even if it did, you know, I'd probably have to get someone on to like kind of deal with that stuff, because I don't think I would be able to sort of deal with having it like the stuff that you need to deal with when you have employees. It's a lot of work, and I don't want to be focusing on that, right? Like I want to be focusing on the product.
Yeah, there's only so much a single person can do. Absolutely. So
yeah,
you know, you can't.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. It's been tough having to do a lot of things that I've never done before, and things I don't necessarily love, and also things that detract from doing what I do love, which is, you know, yeah, making the product better and doing things for the community and so on.
Sure. Yeah, I think with that we can kind of start answering some of the dono questions we've been getting throughout the afternoon. So I have the document up right now. Yeah, I think that's a perfect one. You want to read that one off?
So this was by 300 Hertz or HSZ. Oh, sorry, you know what I'm trying to say, HHZ. The Double project timeline started because someone else was willing to work on it. As Slippi's creator and as a developer, is this something that you encourage other devs in the community to try to do? And is there a particular line that you would prefer not to be touched or crossed?
This is a great question. I think it ties a little bit back to what I said before, which is like, first of all, if you want to work on something, I highly, highly recommend you talk to us about it first, because there are things that people have, you know, wanted to work on or done work on that are things I just do not want to merge, right? I think I don't think there, I might have multiple reasons for that, right? But sometimes it's maintainability. Sometimes it's just like a software system I feel like doesn't fit sort of like our design philosophy, and so on. So I think it's always good, if you want to do this kind of thing, to get involved in the Discord, talk about it, I'll probably respond to you there, and we can sort of discuss whether it's something that would even ever get merged, right? I'll be honest, I don't remember talking that much with Enzyme early on. I feel like he probably did post in there a long time ago, but I didn't hear again about about doubles until like 4 days ago. So you know, maybe if anything, if you're gonna do it, also maybe slightly better communication would be helpful. That's not to knock on Enzyme or anything. I think what he did's great, but you know, obviously, the more you communicate, the better.
Sure. Yeah, can confirm, Jas. I appreciate the amount of times I've just messaged you randomly and been like, "How do I do this in Slippi?" And you've just answered in like 5 minutes is insane to me, given the massive project you have on your hands. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't respond to everyone that messages me, and I'm sorry to those that I don't. I know on Twitter I get messages. I try to read them all at least, and the ones that are kind of like more important or that you can't find answers for yourself, I try to answer. But there's some that people ask me questions where it's like, you just need to go to the Discord, dude. And sometimes I say that too, because like I can't answer everything people ask me.
That's so funny because literally this morning I got a comment on the Slippi tutorial where someone responded to my comment saying, "Please check the FAQ," and they were like, "You're so mean. Just answer his question." I'm like, when this came out, I think I got like 40 questions a day,
Absolutely.
being like, "Hey, how do you do this thing?" that is either answered in the video or is answered in the pinned FAQ.
Yeah.
So, as someone who just made the tutorial video for that, I cannot imagine what your @ in the Twitter notifications must look like sometimes. Like, hey, where do I find a Melee ISO? It's just like delete.
Yeah,
delete.
yeah. Don't ever ask that, people. By the way.
Yeah. Not the right call.
Get your own ISO from your copy of Melee.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, we'll just leave that at that. A couple other questions here. I see that there's a $10 donation from Anonymous. We kind of already touched on this, but I'm just going to read it so they know that we acknowledged it. What's going to be harder to implement, doubles or ranked singles? Awesome job, you guys. I think we kind of touched on that. So
sounds like singles, right?
Well, I think because of how far along ranked is already, probably singles. If it was doubles from scratch, I think it would probably still be ranked singles. Would be harder, but specifically because of all this stuff. Sorry, I don't want to go too long on this, but like all of the other stuff that I have to deal with like griefing, smurfing, desyncs, bad connections, etc., etc. That's the stuff that makes ranked hard.
We have another question. I'm a CS/game design student about to graduate, and I specialize in user experience, gameplay, and balance. Is there any way I or others can contribute to the development of Slippi directly? This is, by the way, from Shiv. I want to give the shout out to them.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I get this question a lot. That's one of the Twitter questions I get a whole bunch. I try to answer this one usually, but I think, like I mentioned, getting involved in the Discord is the best way. We have an introduction channel for the developers where you just like say who you are real quick, and then you do like the role dev or whatever, and then you can speak in the development channels. And it's hard, I can't make it as easy as possible for everyone to get involved. The fact is, if everybody that wanted to help, was helping, I wouldn't be able to keep up. It's sort of slightly purposely difficult to get involved, which is kind of awkward and kind of shitty to say, but it's like, I think you have to be self-motivated to get involved. We don't make it super easy to know like kind of like what are the good things to work on, and I think you have to kind of just like figure it out yourself. I think it's kind of the nature of an open source project that a lot of people want to contribute to, that we can't run it quite like we would run maybe like a private business, where we probably would make it a lot easier for people to know what to work on. Yeah.
Should we close it out with the last question? I don't know how much time we have in terms of
I think we have about, 5-ish minutes. I think we're supposed to end around 3 Eastern, but I'm sure broadcast will correct me on that if I'm.
Okay, we do have the full right to the 12. Okay, cool. What was I going to say? Well, we have a kind of a fun question from Edwin Budding here from Melee Stats, which is, who is the most handsome member of Melee Stats from Edwin Budding. So not only does he have the username there, but he plugs himself too. So want to start from maybe Walt, you can hit it first.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with wheat. And I think I don't know if I need to give a follow-up to that, but I'm gonna go with wheat. So
I was also gonna say wheat has a very, very majestic hair and facial hair combination going. So gotta give that shout out. And then of course, I don't know if he still counts because he's kind of been taking a break from the Melee Stats role, but my good friend Save as Untitled, the homie, shout outs to him too.
Yeah.
I don't know, Fizzi.
I'll give it to Edwin. Sure, why not?
Hell yeah. Okay, and we got one last minute question. We'll kind of end up with this, and then we can kind of wrap up and move on to a little break before our next segment. This is from Respirit, and he asks, as content creators in the scene, what types of Melee content do you think are unexplored or still unrealized? I would assume that this is more directed at Radar and myself, but Fizzi, this is kind of like what we were getting at earlier, where it's like there's so many opportunities for the development of the content and production side of things that you have a huge hand in. So I don't know if you have any comments on anything like that.
I mean, obviously, I love to see the stuff people can do with like even the HUD stuff that Leva did or at this event, right? And showing like the percents going up and stuff. I think anything that uses Slippi to enhance content is really cool. I think potentially even doing some overlays that use maybe like the combo string data from or the punish data or whatever from Slippi to sort of display cool combo counters or something. Who knows? But yeah, I'll let you guys answer it. I think it's more of a question targeted at you guys.
Yeah, I think what Leva is doing is just purely phenomenal, and he's been doing this for a while, as far as I'm. But just kind of like pushing the boundaries of what is capable of presenting for Melee broadcast specifically. So shout outs to him if he's in the chat. Leva, you're amazing. It's so cool, like bringing him onto this production for 5 days of Melee, because I know that myself and Matt and the other leadership in the gang were kind of like, all right, Leva, like just do your thing because you're amazing at what you do for all of that. I think for me, it's kind of like the Melee content, like Circle of Life. This is something we also talked about in the panel yesterday. Is kind of like it's really cool because tournaments are around to sustain the competitive drive in people, and then what things like me and Radar and everyone else on kind of like the YouTube side are able to sustain that ecosystem and make it so that people are interested and have something to talk about in addition to having those tournaments. So I think there's a lot that can be done in the realm of content, whether it's on broadcast side, on tournament recaps, on just kind of analysis or statistics sort of things. There's a ton that we can do.
I have a bunch of thoughts. I think it is kind of like unlimited. I think a lot of the stuff that I think I end up doing. So podcasts, I feel, is a huge part of it. I think there are a lot of interesting personalities and people in the scene that we can highlight. The game show idea I've had for maybe 9 months, and I thought about how to do it, and I was like, oh, there's so many graphics I'll have to make, and how will I figure out how to do the OBS stuff? And so when people told me about this, I was like, I have a great idea, and it won't have to be just me doing it. So let's get that started. I think there's a lot of space for other types of game shows and just kind of game related to Melee. So the issue is not ideas. We have so much information, so much inspiration. One other thing too is I'd love to see some different types of tournament formats. And we see a lot of the double elimination brackets. Sometimes we see show matches and stuff, but I want to see something really different. Something that's still very much based in gameplay, but highlighting something that we might not see in general would be my thoughts.
Definitely. Yes, final minute. Jas, is there any last shout outs, thanks that you want to give for the people in the broadcast right now who are watching 5 Days of Melee?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, thanks to everyone that's supporting Slippi. Thanks to all the contributors. Thank you, community. You guys are great.
Yeah, I've been spamming your Patreon in the Twitch chat as I can send links. Definitely check that out, guys. Continue to support Fizzi. Obviously, that support goes a long way. We kind of all sort of empathizing here that, it's not, you can be a really important person and not be rolling in money either. So Fizzi, definition of a really important person in the community, help make that kind of sustainable by contributing there.
Yep. Or donate to Direct Relief. That's
also
Exactly,
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing really well this week. Last couple days, close to 30K already. Kind of insane to think about, because this, again, I mean, we kind of conceptualized this less than 2 weeks ago. So for it to come together this well is really great.
There was a solid week where we were like, is this happening? Is this actually happening? And Matt's advice was, if we just move forward as if it's happening, it will happen. And I was like, fuck, all right.
I was in a call with him one-on-one.
That's definitely that TO. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was talking with him one-on-one, like when we kind of finally made the call, and I was like, is this happening? And he's like, yeah, it is happening. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe it. But
that's the TO mentality right there.
It really is. It's a whole other type of person. I know we're cut for time, but I look at these TO guys, and I mean it in the most polite way, but you are literally insane to me. Like, actually crazy people. The way he describes, like, we're just going to be incredibly stressed for the whole week. And I'm just like, cool.
Yeah, moral of the story, guys, support your TOs, support what Fizzi is doing and Project Slippi. It's all really amazing stuff. Jazz, thank you again for joining us on the show. So happy to be able to bring you on and be able to talk more about what Project Slippi means to this community and how much of an impact it's had on the scene. Of course, I am turned down for Walt. I'm joined by my co-host Radar. We are the Mixup, hopefully a bi-weekly podcast. So we'll see you guys on New Year's Eve, I think, is the next time we'd be coming up.
Oh yeah.
So we might be doing something like that, but yeah, we'll figure something out. But yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. We have some really, really cool stuff coming up for the day. And after this break, you guys are going to be seeing the PM meta and tier discussion segment. So get hyped for PM. And
one last thing, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So please check that out. That'll also be on my YouTube channel, but you can listen there and leave a review, because that actually makes a big difference. But thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. Keep it locked for more 5 Days of Melee.